Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to a new deep dive. Today we are plunging into some uh, really fascinating source material. Stuff that tries to connect unexplained phenomena in our skies right now with descriptions found in, well, ancient texts.
Yeah, it's a deep dive that really bridges millennia, doesn't it?
Right.
It takes claims about advanced aerial craft from some pretty surprising places, and it suggests this kind of continuity that, really challenges conventional history.
Exactly. And your sources for this dive, they give us a lot to work with. We've got analysis of modern sightings, specifically video reports coming out of Brazil.
Hmm.
Then we have details purportedly pulled from ancient Indian texts about these things called Vimanas.
Right, Vimanas.
And there's also a report about a very recent alleged discovery that sort of ties it all together.
So our mission here really is to guide you through the information that's presented in these sources. We want to look closely at the specific claims, the details, and help you understand what's being put forth and maybe why these connections are so compelling to explore.
Okay, so where do we start? Let's begin right here in the modern day, specifically with that video analysis from Brazil.
That's right. Your source provides analysis of a video, supposedly capturing a strange craft in high definition. And the analysis, well, it immediately jumps to what it looks like.
And how is this object described? What are they saying?
Well, what's really striking is how the source interprets the visuals. They suggest it looks like a Vimana, even using the term golden chariot.
A golden chariot.
Yeah, the video is described as HD, offering a clear picture, which lets them have a close look at its unique characteristics.
And the interpretation, it goes beyond just saying it's potentially unusual, right? The
Mhm.
source's initial read sounds pretty definitive.
Oh, it is. The analysis asserts this object is definitely not a drone and not a balloon. The conclusion they draw is that it's something not of this planet.
Hmm.
But what makes this analysis particularly interesting is the focus on the object's apparent age or its condition, maybe?
Oh, right. You mean the description that it looks
Yeah.
kind of ancient.
Precisely. The source says it looks like it's been through a lot, like it's been around for thousands of years. They point to visible characteristics that suggest corrosion, patina, describing it as looking worn down, almost like an antique.
An antique craft, potentially thousands of years old, captured clearly over Brazil today. That's quite an extraordinary claim just from looking at a video. It immediately connects that modern visual evidence to this idea of ancient advanced tech.
It does. And that fascinating connection to ancient ideas, well, it takes us straight to the second piece of video evidence from Brazil mentioned in your sources.
This one sounds much more dynamic. Brazilian fighter jets chasing a UFO.
Yeah, this report paints a very different picture, more interactive. It describes two jets flanking a UFO, trying to keep pace. The pilots apparently engage their afterburners, pushing their aircraft to max speed.
But the object outruns them. Is that the story?
According to the source, yes. The object is described as being faster than the fighter jets, even when they're at full throttle.
And then simply, what,
Wait,
disappears?
it shoots straight up into the clouds, just leaves the jets behind. And like the first video analysis, the source draws some really strong conclusions from this event.
Repeating that same sort of conclusion?
Exactly. Again, based on the speed alone, it's deemed definitely not a balloon. And as for drones, well, the source dismisses that completely, stating, drones, no way, could achieve the speed of a fighter jet, let alone, exceed it and pull off maneuvers like that. The conclusion here is the same. This object is also definitely not of this planet.
So the takeaway from these modern sightings, according to the sources anyway, seems to be twofold. First, we have objects in our skies today doing things far beyond known conventional aircraft, extreme speed, maneuverability.
Mm-hmm.
And second, at least one sighting is interpreted as showing a craft that looks ancient, with the analysis specifically using that term, Vimana.
And this really highlights the source's core argument for this section, that modern unexplained aerial phenomena might involve objects with capabilities way beyond ours, and possibly objects with an incredibly long history.
Which, yeah, naturally leads us to those ancient ideas.
Mhm.
Where does that term Vimana actually come from?
Well, the term, and quite extensive descriptions, according to the source material, originate from ancient Indian texts. We're talking about ancient Indian scripts, well-known epics like the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and other Sanskrit texts.
And your source is claiming these texts offer more than just, like, passing mentions.
Oh, significantly more. The source states these ancient scripts hold exquisite details about these flying machines. They also claim that interpretations of this material draw upon the work of, get this, 70 authorities and 10 experts of air travel in antiquity.
Wait, 70 authorities and 10 experts from antiquity focused on air travel. That's a very specific claim about how technically deep these ancient writings supposedly are, at least in the source's interpretation. It suggests they're not just reporting myths, but maybe technical descriptions.
It implies, well, within the framework of the source material, a whole body of ancient knowledge dedicated to the subject. And the capabilities ascribed for these Vimanas, based on these interpretations, they're truly extraordinary by today's standards, let alone for ancient times.
Okay, so tell us about these reported capabilities. What could these Vimanas supposedly do?
According to the sources, they were reportedly powered by anti-gravity. They were capable of vertical takeoff.
Huh. So like a modern helicopter maybe, but using a completely different propulsion system?
Exactly. And they could hover in the sky. Again, the comparison used is like a modern helicopter. But that's really just the start.
Right. Here's where it gets really interesting because the sources mentioned a specific example from a classic text, the Ramayana.
Yes, the interpretation presented in your source, drawn from the Ramayana, includes a description of a trip to the moon in a Vimana.
A trip to the moon in an ancient flying machine described in text thousands of years old. I mean, that's a leap far beyond just vertical takeoff.
That's what the source claims is described, along with details of a battle fought on the surface of the moon with an airship. The implication from the source is, well, interplanetary travel and conflict.
Wow. A battle on the moon described in ancient Indian texts.
That speaks to an entirely different understanding of ancient capabilities than, conventional history gives us.
And the descriptions of their physical characteristics and other powers go even further. The source mentions they were 12 cubits in circumference, giving them a reported physical size.
Okay.
And they were equipped with powerful exotic energy weapons that can essentially absorb a target.
Energy weapons that absorb a target. That sounds incredibly advanced. Like, yeah, something out of high-level science fiction.
And other researchers whose interpretations are included in your source material have suggested even stranger powers derived from these ancient texts. Things like invisibility, levitation, or the power to suddenly absorb tremendous weight. Okay, let's just pause on that for a second. Invisibility, levitation, absorbing huge amounts of weight. These aren't just different ways to fly. These sound, well, utterly fantastical, even with what we know about physics today.
It certainly pushes the boundaries of what we typically associate with ancient technology, or even mythology for that matter. And your source makes an interesting observation here, noting that these described powers sound like the powers that the top brass of the United States would want to get their hands on.
Which, just presenting that factually is a point made within the source material. It really highlights the perceived strategic importance of these claimed ancient abilities, even from a modern military perspective. So connecting these points, we've got modern sightings of incredibly fast, unique, maybe ancient-looking craft.
Right.
And we have ancient texts that, according to these interpretations anyway, describe advanced flying machines, Vimanas with capabilities like anti-gravity, vertical takeoff, interplanetary travel, and these almost sci-fi level weapons and powers.
The connection being drawn is pretty clear. Could the advanced objects seen today somehow be related to the advanced machines described way back then? It really raises the question of whether these ancient texts are purely symbolic or if they contain echoes of a forgotten, maybe highly advanced historical reality.
And this brings us right to the third type of information presented in your sources, these reports about a purported modern discovery that directly relates to these ancient Vimanas.
Yeah, this introduces an alleged event, something supposed to have happened in the recent past. According to the source, unnamed military scientists were reportedly involved in the discovery of a 5,000-year-old Vimana.
5,000 years old. That number, it kind of echoes the speculated age of the object described in that first Brazil video, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where is this alleged discovery supposed to have taken place?
The report claims it was found in Afghanistan, and it's described with this peculiar phrase, "entombed in a time well."
Entombed in a time well. That's not standard terminology. The source doesn't really elaborate on what that phrase might specifically mean, does it?
No, it uses the phrase as found in the report it's drawing from, yeah. So it leaves the exact nature of the discovery site kind of open to interpretation based on that phrasing. But the source is quite specific about the alleged immediate consequences of this find.
And those consequences sound pretty severe, weren't they?
Extremely severe. The source states that this discovery resulted in 8 troops disappearing. It alleges they were likely being incinerated upon interacting with the object. The report specifically notes 8 military troops that are still unaccounted for because of this incident.
Wow, that's a significant human cost attributed to this alleged discovery. And the source claims to know why this happened.
Well, the allegation is that the discovered Vimana was actually still activated despite its incredible age, and that this dangerous activation caused the death of the soldiers.
Still functional and lethal after 5 millennia. Huh. This source also includes a claim about the original ownership of this specific alleged craft.
Yes, it claims the original owner of the magical Vimana was none other than the ancient prophet Zor, who is reportedly a figure described in the Mahabharata and other Sanskrit texts.
Right, so again, drawing that direct line back to those ancient Indian texts and the figures mentioned in them, this alleged discovery in Afghanistan, I mean, if true, it would serve as concrete evidence, according to these sources, that these ancient craft not only existed, but might still be found today and in a potentially dangerous state.
Mm-hmm. And the source wraps up this section by posing some direct questions about the event, like, is the government ever going to release the true story behind this discovery in Afghanistan?
Presenting it as a kind of mystery that the source material suggests remains officially undisclosed. Okay, so let's try and synthesize this for you, the listener.
Yeah.
We've looked at the modern reports from your sources,
Mm-hmm.
video evidence from Brazil showing objects with extreme speed and maneuvers,
Mm-hmm.
and one described as looking thousands of years old, explicitly linked to this idea of ancient Vimanas.
Then we explored the claims from interpretations of ancient Indian texts. These describe the Vimanas in detail, attributing to them incredibly advanced capabilities, anti-gravity, vertical flight, even interplanetary travel, and these exotic weapon systems, far beyond what we typically think of for ancient technology.
And finally, we examined a report about a purported modern discovery in Afghanistan. A 5,000-year-old Vimana, allegedly still activated and resulting in the deaths of military personnel when it was found.
So the core claims presented across these different sources, kind of woven together, are essentially this: that these ancient Vimanas weren't just myth, but potentially real, highly advanced craft, that their technology involved capabilities like anti-gravity and powerful weapons,
Right.
that they could travel vast distances, maybe even to the moon, and that such objects might still exist today, potentially explaining modern unexplained aerial phenomena, or even being discovered with significant, dangerous consequences.
So why should you care about these claims and connections? Well, because they touch on some pretty fundamental questions, don't they? Questions about our understanding of human history, the true capabilities of ancient civilizations, the nature of unexplained modern phenomena in our skies, and, the possibility of hidden discoveries with potentially world-altering implications.
Yeah, and our role in this deep dive really is just to present the information directly from your sources, laying out the details and the claims made within them for you to consider and evaluate yourself.
It's quite a journey this material takes us on, from the skies over Brazil today, back to descriptions in ancient Indian texts written millennia ago, and then forward again to an alleged dangerous discovery in Afghanistan. It forces you to look at these disparate pieces of information, modern reports, ancient writings, contemporary rumors, and consider how the sources try to connect them.
It really leaves you with a compelling question to ponder, doesn't it? What if the lines between what we call ancient mythology, historical texts that might preserve some kind of lost technological knowledge, and these unexplained modern phenomena? What if those lines are far more blurred and interconnected than our current understanding really allows us to comfortably accept?
Something to definitely keep thinking about, for sure, based on the intriguing claims presented in these sources.
Yeah.
We encourage you to continue exploring these ideas based on the material you've provided for this dive.